There's so much excitement in the world of card games and board games nowadays that there's a lot of people looking to get their games published and into the hands of LGSs and internet retailers, the people who would sell their games to the public. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's actually a topic that I'm really excited to talk about because I have been approached in the past about board games. No card games yet. Hopefully in the future, I'll be approached by card games. But what I've found has been consistent across several interactions, and that's sometimes people don't have the answers to the questions, or they haven't thought through what I want to know yet. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, like what I look for in a company when they approach me about a game. And not everybody's going to be the same. When you approach an LGS or a different online retailer, they might not want to know all the things. They might not go as in depth as I go when I vet a company, but that's okay because these are really important questions. So even if somebody doesn't want to know them, it's good that you know them and you've thought through these points ahead of time. The first thing that's important, I think, for a game maker to remember that a game that's already in distribution at like a big distribution company like Southern Hobby or Alliance, that's different. Very, very different than a smaller game publisher or like a self-publisher coming directly to an LGS and saying, hey, I have this game. Would you buy it and put it on your shelves? A game that's already in distribution has a lot of backing already behind it, a lot of systems already in place. There's an assurance that there is a marketing plan in place, that there's already buzz around the game. There's a big machine that's already in motion behind this game. So usually, not always, but usually, you can be assured that there are people out there looking for this game. A small game company is not like that. You're basically asking for investors, not like initial startup investors in your company, but there is an element of asking an LGS to invest in your game because that's kind of what it is. So the first thing that I really like to hear when somebody pitches me a board game and maybe a card game is the elevator pitch. Obviously, it's what is your game? What do you do in the game? What is it, a board game, a card game? What makes it special? What makes it different? You know, what's the vision? Why is this thing cool? Why do I want to be a part of it? Who plays it? That's another big question is who plays it? Is this game played by adults? Is this game played by high schoolers, by little kids? What's your target demographic? And what kind of store do you see your game sitting in? Is this a card game? Well, if I'm a board game store that sells exclusively I only sell board games, then why are you approaching me? I don't sell card games. So knowing what kind of store, like, is this like a hardcore, like Dungeons and Dragons game? And I'm a children's learning store? Well, why are you approaching me? I sell little colorful bricks. I don't sell Dungeons and Dragons. So knowing who you're approaching and what kind of store they're running is really important right off the bat. The next thing that's really important to me, and I've been underwhelmed in the past by the answers that I've gotten, are what's your marketing strategy? What is the 6-month, 12-month, 18-month timeline here that you're looking at getting the word of mouth spread, getting the steam and energy behind your game? If I buy your game today, if I buy a case or a pallet of your game today, what kind of assurance are you going to give me that in 18 months, maybe the word of mouth isn't there yet, but what kind of assurance are you going to give me that in 6 months, in 12 months, that eventually this is going to catch on, that you're going to keep pushing, you're going to keep trying to get the word out there? Now, it's completely understandable that if you just never garner the attention that you're looking for, but you need to have a strategy in place, a plan that shows me or any other buyer that you're going to work on it, that there is a direction that you're headed. You're not just relying on me to do your marketing for you. Me buying your product and sticking it on a shelf or posting it on eBay isn't marketing. That's not going to sell the game. You need people looking for your game. What influencers are on board? This is in the marketing strategy. there's a lot of influencers in the board games genre. There's a lot of influencers in the card games genre. Who have you approached? Who's on board on what social media platforms? Instagram, TikTok, all of the YouTube, all the above. Who's on board? How much money do you have allocated? Now, you don't have to go, obviously, too deep into your specific business details, but I want to know that you're headed in the direction that it needs to go in. I want to know that I'm not buying a pallet of board games that's going to be sitting in a warehouse and it's never going to move, because that was your entire market. That was like your entire business plan, was just dump off the board games as fast as possible and let them deal with it. The rest is on you, man. I don't want to buy into something like that. So next we're going to kind of go over the dirty part. I could have saved this for later in the video, but I guess let's get it. Let's address it early on. Let's get it out in the open. And I would advise you, don't talk about this unless you're asked about it, directly asked about it. Okay. Because this can come off as kind of scummy. So you don't want to be the guy who's like, hey, guess what, man? The dirty part is, what's the hook? What's going to get people coming back for more? Okay. Somebody bought your board game and that's great. But are there going to be expansions? Are there going to be booster packs? What's the thing that keeps people coming back for more? So like I said, this is kind of like the gross part of business, capitalism, whatever you want to call it. And I wouldn't lead with this, definitely. I wouldn't want to be the guy coming off as like, hey man, I got this game and oh my God, I'm going to release an expansion every week and the price is going to be so high, but people are going to be so addicted to this game that they're not going to be able to stop buying it, man. It's going to be great for us. Creepy. Don't do that. Okay. Unless you're directly asked by somebody, but you should know this about your business. This is one of those things that you should at least know about what you're doing with your game. How are you going to keep interest? Because if you're lucky enough to break through that crowded market, you got a whole crowd of screaming people saying, buy my game. If you're lucky enough to get head and shoulders above everybody else, you need to have some sort of plan in place, some sort of idea of how you're going to keep the ball rolling. And you see this with all different card games. I mean, obviously card games, but board games too. Cards Against Humanity does like their new expansions. I'm blanking on other board games right now, but think of how many different board games. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons. Think about how many board games just, they always have new content, but within that same initial IP. It's all within the same initial intellectual property. So you keep that name recognition going in that same vein. It's not enough to be like, to rest on your laurels and say, hey, this is my card game company, Bob's Card Game Company or Board Game Company. Here's my board game. And then I'm going to expect people to want to stay loyal to Bob's Board Game Company and then buy every different title after that and not keep mining that same vein. I hope that makes sense. To me, that makes sense. I hope that makes sense to you. Here's another important thing that I want to know when people pitch me a game. How many units have you sold? What's the motion? What's the velocity? And who's buying it? Are you selling it to LGSs? Are you selling it directly to the market? And this is a big one because I have gotten burned. I have stepped in this bear trap in the past and I will never step in this bear trap again. So this is a big one. Are you, the board game manufacturer, selling direct to consumer? Because it's a problem, and I'll explain why. I have bought board games, and they have been companies who sell direct to consumer. And now the problem lies in like they price the MSRP at, let's say, $80. And so they sell it to me for $40. I buy it for $40. I'm like, okay, I'll hold your MSRP. Now they have their own website and they're selling direct to consumer. Now I can't sell below $80 because I'm going to tank their company. I'm going to tank the market. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be responsible for destroying their company. But now I'm left with a pallet full of board games because they're overpriced. They're not worth $80. Like if you look at the competition and what's selling for $80 and compare it to this board game, They're not selling for 80. This is a $50 max, probably $35, $40 board game. So I want to get rid of it. I want to try selling it. I want to try repricing it at any price that the market will take it, just to see, but I can't, because I will just completely wipe out and come in and undercut the company who's actually selling it to market. So that's a reason why I'll never get in bed with another company that's selling direct to consumer. It's, it's just a consideration you have to make when you're doing this. And you should be upfront too with like LGSs. A lot of times LGSs and like online retailers, we don't want to be in competition with you. You're producing the product. You're not really supposed to be our competition. If you're going to sell the product, then just sell the product. Don't come to me and say, let's sell this product together, because obviously you have infinite more price control over that product than I do. You can always lower manufacturing costs. You can always taper the MSRP. You can do whatever you want with the price that I can't do. Just a mini rant, because I obviously have stepped in this bear trap in the past, and it's a big red flag that I watch out for now. So if you're in the position of developing your own game, think about this and think about the implications that it has for an LGS or an online retailer when you're selling your own product direct to market. How many units have you sold? And is that number growing? Is this catching on? Or am I buying into a dying, the horse is dying and you're just trying to get me to help you beat it to death? And here's a big one too. Do you have restrictions about the selling platforms? Are you looking just to sell mainly in LGSs? You don't want to mess around with the online sales. This goes back into know who you're talking to. Do you have a problem with me selling it on Amazon? Do you have a problem with me selling it on eBay, on a personal website, on somebody else's website, drop shipping it, whatever the case may be? Do you have a problem with me adopting my own distribution model and trying to sell it to LGSs myself? These things are important. This is another, I guess, side rant, but I have stepped in that bear trap in the past too, where I have this game and the marketing is not bad. There is some influencer traction behind it. There's videos out there, people playing the game. They're getting a couple thousand views. And I think it would be great to sell this game on Amazon. But they don't want their game on Amazon because they don't want the LGSs competing with Amazon. And that's, I know, a big sore spot in the whole industry as a whole. LGSs hate it when people come into their store looking for a game and then they're standing in their store on the cell phone on Amazon or eBay looking to see if they can get it cheaper. Now, I understand that. But it puts me in a hard spot. And I think it's potentially limiting your own exposure, because having your game on Amazon adds a lot of validity to that game. Being able to, having a customer be able to prime order your game and get it like in 2 days and have that whole Amazon infrastructure behind it, it adds a lot of exposure and validity. So something to think about, the implications there. The sales channels we talked about. Do you sell direct to market? Do you have a distribution model? Are you working with a distributor? Are you planning on working with the distributor? Or are you going to be handling the distribution yourself? I understand that there are drawbacks as far as pricing goes to working with the distributor, especially if you don't get like really good mass printing prices on your product and you have to pay quite a bit per unit to print the product. Then going through a distributor doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. You're not going to be making too much money per unit. And if you are open to working with a distributor in the future, but you don't have a distributor now, do you want me to try and distribute it for you? Should we work something out? These are all things that you should, I guess, think about, or at least have an answer to when you cold call or cold email or go into a meeting. What's the MSRP versus what price are you selling it to me for? Are you holding hard and fast to that MSRP, or is it flexible? Can I sell it for less if I need to sell it for less? We kind of touched on that earlier. What's your manufacturing capacity is another one. That's one that I've gotten lackluster answers to. you're doing all this marketing. You're getting the word of mouth out there. People are loving your game. I order 10 cases of your game. What happens if I sell out of those 10 cases in a week and I come back to you in a week from now and say, I need 10 pallets. How long is it going to take me to get those 10 pallets? Do you have a warehouse where all this product is already printed and ready to go? Or are you going to need a lead time to manufacture this stuff? As a retailer, it's good to know that there's marketing behind it. It's good to know that the word of mouth and there's traction growing. But I also want to know that if I found a hot product that all of a sudden catches on, am I going to have access to more? And how long is it going to take me to get access to more? I'm not requiring everybody to have a warehouse full of product just for me so that I can keep pumping it out to the world. But it's good to know that there's a plan in place for, what's your stockpile? What are your stores? And how long is the lead time? How long does it take to get more? Or maybe this is a limited run and you're not going to be printing anymore. That's another part of marketing that could be important information as well. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. Let's get into how do you find people who want to buy your games? How do you get a hold of these LGSs or these online retailers who are really key to getting the word out to the public and getting it in the public's hands? Well, the first thing to remember is that you should already be in production, as far as I'm concerned, if you're at this point. If you're at the point of trying to reach out to me or reach out to an LGS or anybody out there and trying to stock a store, you should already be in production. There should already be pallets in a warehouse somewhere that you're ready to ship as soon as the payment clears on PayPal or whatever it is. I've seen companies that have come to me and said, "Hey, you want to buy this game? Okay, yeah, I guess, how much and when can I get 2 cases of it?" And they're like, we're kind of in the MVP stage. It's going to be 6 months before we get the product out. It's like, okay, what do you want me to do about, why are we even talking right now? What do you want me to do about this? I'm not going to pay you right now. I'm not going to pre-order a game 6 months in advance for a brand new startup company. You should be looking for initial investors into your business, not people to buy your game. It's great that you have an MVP, a minimal viable product, just basically a mock-up. And that's great. You're on the right path, but why are you approaching me? What do you want me to do about it? Visit your local stores, assuming you have the product and you're ready to sell it. Visit local stores, talk to people, get to know people in your local community. That face-to-face interaction can go a long, long way. Getting to know people on a personal level, understanding the community, understanding their store, what they're looking for, and how you can work together to generate business is important. And it can't be said enough that face-to-face interaction, boy, is really important in business. But after that, you can join Gamma. I'm a member of Gamma. Most people in this world are. The Game Manufacturers Association. I don't remember what the A stands for, but it's basically a group of people. You pay a monthly fee. I don't remember how much it is, $100, $200. And you get access to Facebook groups. You get access to lists. You get newsletters and all kinds of stuff that puts you into contact with manufacturers, LGSs. It plugs you into the world. You get notified on conventions. It's really the best way to go networking to the very specific niche of this kind of tiny game world. After that, cold calls and cold emails are a great way to do it too. And that's something that you can use Gamma for too. You get access to email lists, and I've gotten approached by board game people through my Gamma email. And I've bought product from people who have cold emailed me from the Gamma list. It works, cold calling and cold email works. It's just, do you have the salespersonship to be able to generate interest and close the deal, basically? And that's going to be a muscle that you're probably going to have to work out for a little bit of time before you get comfortable in cold calling people and try and make sales. Social media networking is big. Facebook is really big in this space. There are a lot of big Facebook groups of board game people, LGSs, and getting to know the people in those groups and networking with those people is of infinite importance. So lastly, we're going to talk about you as a person. And this is going to be different for everybody. I can only talk for myself, and the kind of people that I connect with, that I like getting on board with, are people that come at me hot, that people who have energy, who are firing on all cylinders. I want to feel your business acumen. I want to feel your energy and excitement. And that's what works for me. Some people are more laid back and they might just like, I want to have like a nice chill conversation. Like they might be more drawn to your personal story about developing the board game and going through your hardships in life or whatever, whatever your personal take is. There are people who will probably be more drawn to that. Not me. I'm more drawn to the people who are very business oriented, very energetic, who have a long-term goal, who are like, hey man, I'm working on making the next Hasbro here. I've got this strategy. I've got this plan for my business, for this board game, for myself. I've got all my T's crossed and all my I's dotted. Because this is an investment. And I think that it's important for people to remember that when I buy a board game, it's not like when you go to Walmart and buy Monopoly. I am buying a half dozen cases. I'm buying a pallet, and it's an investment. I'm buying it I'm buying it with the intent of selling it for more than I bought it for. And so when I'm making an investment, when I'm taking this leap, I like to know that I'm buying into a person that's going to protect that investment. It would be like buying a McDonald's franchise, right? And there's a reason why the SEC regulates franchise sales, because these are investments. You're not just, it's not like you going to McDonald's and buying a Big Mac. You're putting out a lot of capital up front in order to make money, more money in return in the future. So, I like guys who are, or girls who are high energy, quick with an answer, and personable, kind of like a Wolf of Wall Street, sell me this pen type of pitch. That's just me. And that it won't work on everybody. Everybody, I have my own personal tastes and the kind of business people I like to interact with. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I think I covered most, if not every, of my bullet points. Let me know how you feel in the conversation in the comments down below. Are you developing your own card game, your own board game? Is this something that you've experienced in the past? Have you reached out to people? And let me know, like, have there been questions that you haven't had answers for? Is there something that I missed? Because there probably is. Knowing me, there probably is. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for all the new subscribers. And as always, I will catch you later.